Good day, friend.
So a couple of weeks ago it was Father's Day. Got a dartboard, got the backing board up. Want to put some chalkboard paint on so we can actually do some proper scoring. Yeah. All right, that's coat 1 done. Coat 2 tomorrow with the magic of television. Boom, day 2. Again, I don't even know if I got that set up the same, but I got a roller. Second coat, make it a bit nicer with this roller. All right, I think that'll do. Might do one more coat, but let's fast forward and talk about targeting. Okay. That's it. Okay, here's a bit of a crash course that I could share with you of everything that I've come to understand, at least, about targeting, specifically in growth of your brand beyond where it is that you have started. How can we grow our brand? Stick with me. There's a little bit of jargon in this, but we'll get there. Now, you might think targeting is all about reaching the most ideal customer. But look, in reality, it's much like a dartboard. Now, one thing many people do when they start playing darts is aim for the bullseye. And this is no different for brands. We often go for the most desired target market to begin with when we start our brands, especially if they're the most viable market for your business starting out. But this might be only a very small pool to target, small pool of customers, which might make them also very hard to find, especially if you're up against competition that is also vying for those same customers in that target market. So when you're doing your targeting, you're going to be looking for an ideal group of buyers that have, whoop, there goes my chalk. I feel like I'm a school teacher. That have a specific need, okay? And that you can fill it with your offer. And then position it so that these people think of your brand. That's targeting, okay? I think we all get that. That's the pretty simple part of strategy, brand strategy, business strategy, all pretty much the same in terms of targeting for customers for business and brand growth. Whereas if we start with a thing called segmentation, so segmenting your market, I really do feel like a school teacher here. You could then look at your market like a dartboard where you have all these available segments that you could target rather than just that ideal customer that you are hopefully looking for as a result. They're the bullseye. They are worth the most. They might be the most viable, but so could all the rest of them in combination than just that target bullseye alone. So if you look at all the different segments, some aren't going to bring you in as much. Some might be 6 points, some might be 12 points, one might be 20, or one might be 3. So they're all different weights of viability for your brand. Now there might be some segments that have double or triple the value to your brand or business than a whole other segment entirely. And these are the type of segments that have customers who are loyal, those who are evangelists, those who are advocates for your brand. They form these little communities like Apple fanboys or the grown-up Disney kids or Swifties, you know, Taylor Swift, Swifties. Yeah. But there are many different ways of segmenting your market. One could be geographic, like focusing on towns, suburbs. I live in a very tiny ass town. If I could target just my town and then target another town, this is how I could segment my market. Just fit that one in. Now, demographics is everything from age, gender, marital status, work status, your culture, your ethnicity, all these kinds of facts, very hard figures, when you were born, all that kind of stuff. Demographics. I only just fit that one in. That's even longer. Third is psychographics, or as some people now are calling them in marketing land, category entry points. And this is a big point that I want to make here. Pardon the pun. Is that a pun? I don't know. Category entry points is another way of segmenting your market. Now, category entry points are the times, the places, the reasons for a consumer to want to buy, for your customer, for your client, when they're interested in buying from you. Now, don't get me wrong, we still definitely want to have a target market, yes? Because it forms the basis of a strategy. Very, very simply. The strategy is market orientation, then segmentation, then targeting, then positioning. If you can read that, I'm going to give you 50 points. 50 points to Gryffindor. Now, that's a strategy. That is a brand strategy, a business strategy, marketing strategy, whatever you want to call it. This is your hypothesis of how your brand is going to win. All right, let's make that clear. How you are going to win. Okay? Strategy. First being market orientation. What does your customer need and how are you going to solve it with your offering? So this is your product or your service. What need is it going to fulfill? And most businesses will have understood what need is already there. So that's one ticked box that you can have off your list. But the next is segmentation. So this is looking at all the available market opportunities that you have that you could potentially target, but based on who needs it. Okay, so it's not just everybody, most likely. There is some person out there that needs it, but hopefully there's more than one person. And then next is targeting. This is who we're going to focus our attention on. We put our time, our money, our blood, sweat, and tears into helping these people, okay? And then positioning is how we are going to get our customer to remember and think of us, choose us over others so that we can attract their attention, get them in and be buying over our competitors. Our competitors aren't even on the board. We don't really want to think about them. But what that is going to do is this makes up our hypothesis of how we are going to win. Yeah. This is, as I said, an educated guess of how we are going to win. You obviously can use data, sales data, market trend data to influence who you're going to target, who is going to be the most viable for you in this current climate that you're in. That targeting can change over time. That positioning can change over time. That market orientation can change over time. That segmentation can change over time. This is the reason why we want to make strategy a cyclical process. Cyclical, yes. Cyclical process. Strategy shouldn't be set in stone. It's not just a one-hit wonder. We need to come back and revisit this. That's the diatribe aside of strategy. Now, for most brands, they're going to start with at least one target. You might have more, that's okay, and it might be a broad target, something like this, or it might be a very niche target like this. It's really up to the brand and what it offers and the available market that it has. Now, I've worked with a client, they're in the financial space for home lending, and they know who their target is. In Australia, there's only so many lenders out there for mortgages, so they know exactly who they can target, and it's very, very small. This is why they exist. It's enough for them to be viable, obviously, otherwise they wouldn't have started this business, but it's very, very small compared to other industries that have an absolute smorgasbord of segments that they could position and target. So it really depends on the type of industry and offer that you bring to the table. Now, if you do go niche, as I said before, there might be only a small amount of customers in that segment that you can target. Now, if you've picked a niche, let's say we've got number 6 here, number 6 niche, and you've really done well with this particular target market, you know, you've got all the customers, you're market leading in that sector, okay? But you're reaching a plateau, and you're reaching a plateau because customers can only buy so much and so often. And this is where we reach a point of how are we going to grow beyond what we are now? You know, we need to throw more darts at the dartboard. Obviously, some aren't going to stick. I mean, I've got 2 there already and 1 flew off. So that made my point really clear. And this is where segmentation comes back. All right, we need to hit more darts into different segments to make sure we are growing beyond our current target market. Now, I hope you're still with me because this stuff is a little bit dry. I fully appreciate that. It's a little bit jargony, I get it, but stick with me here. This is how we grow brands. And I'll come back to this point that you can definitely do all of this, expand your segmentation, expand your market, just by focusing on CEPs. Just focusing on different category entry points and reasons where a consumer would be likely to buy what it is you have to offer. Some examples of this would be something like a beer, where a beer could be obviously available in a liquor store, bottle shop, botlo, as we call them here in Australia. It could be available at a sporting ground. Goes hand in hand at the moment. But that is based on category entry points. It got there because of category entry points. What are all the different situations where beer would be a good place to be drunk at a sporting game, apparently? Or it could be at a restaurant, or it could be in a supermarket. Not so much here in Australia. We don't have alcohol in supermarkets. We do in bottle shops, liquor stores. And then there's other situations where you might have alcohol as well. It could be at the brewery itself, or it could be online in an online store. All these different places where people can find you, might need you, and are interested in buying from you. The beauty of it is that it can just be one offer. Okay, it doesn't need to be multiple offers. It can be just one offering positioned for 3 different reasons. And I'll give you another example of this. My clients Raw Sea with the coconut water. I've talked about them a few times now already. They have coconut water that can be used for 3 different occasions. One could be for sport, and we can create a tailored message for that, nature's sports drink, or it could be a afternoon pick-me-up, the 3:30itis thing, where we need a bit of an energy lift. We need some natural hydration to get us a bit of an energy boost. Again, another CEP. Or it could be to start your day with a smoothie to get yourself elevated, give yourself an energy boost, keep you hydrated to get your day going. Those are 3 different category entry points with the one offer, but targeted to different segments that we call category entry points. Yeah. Now, one last example I'll give of CEPs is one I gave in an Instagram reel a few months back, towards the start of the year, I think it was, and it was about Coca-Cola. So for Coca-Cola in 1931, at that point, they'd already been around for like 50 years. That's crazy, yeah? So they were positioned as a summer beverage, okay? People were drinking it then to quench thirst, cool themselves off. It's a nice summer beverage. But in 1931, they said, look, our sales are down in winter. It's not working for us. We need to have consistent, maintained growth in all seasons. So in 1931, they looked at their CEPs, reasons why people might buy in winter, and they developed a positioning for Coca-Cola to be a Christmas beverage. Sounds crazy now because we just now always associate Coca-Cola with Christmas. They kind of made Santa Claus popular as a result. But back in 1931, that's what helped them grow their brand by introducing a category entry point of Christmas and making sure that people had an association with their positioning to position Coca-Cola with Christmas. Creating that association is how they helped grow their brand by doing their strategy stuff. Going back to their strategy, how are we going to win in winter? We're going to look at category entry points. And we're going to position our Coca-Cola product for a time of Christmas. It's the perfect beverage that goes with Christmas. That's category entry points. Now, for most businesses starting out, that might be you, or you might be helping a client starting out their business and doing their branding, maybe doing their strategy, is that strategy, like I said before, is just a hypothesis. It's what we believe is going to help us win as a brand, either in the short term or the long term. More likely the long term with branding because it does take its time. But my point is that it's a bit of guesswork, and it can be based on a bit of guesswork. And that's okay, especially starting out. If you have some data, either some quantifiable data that is qualitative or quantitative, facts and figures or surveys, some testing, all that kind of stuff, even better, but it might not be required. So if you're doing a bit of guesswork, that's okay. But one thing I do want to maybe hazard away from is creating fictional personas. Now, you might target a certain individual, certain type of person that you want to call Billy Bob, that is 38, he has kids, he has a high-paying job, and he lives in a certain area, and he has these kinds of problems, but in essence, they are completely different people, like most consumers are. They buy for totally different reasons, not just what's going on in their life, okay? Now, one of the funniest examples that I saw a few years ago, especially based on demographics and how we can't rely, especially on demographics, is an example you might have seen a few years back where they compared Prince Charles, or now King Charles, and Ozzy Osbourne. Now, without the mental image of both of them, you'd have to say on paper, they sound pretty similar. Now, both are men, obviously. Both were born in 1948. Both were raised in the UK. Both were married twice. Both live in castles. And both are extremely wealthy and extremely famous. Told you, same people on paper, but completely different personalities, and they would probably buy one brand over another for completely different reasons. Now, with that said about segmentation and about targeting, there is some research that suggests, and it comes out of the Ehrenberg Bass Institute, that the brands with the broadest market appeal, in other words, that are doing mass marketing, don't need to rely upon segmentation and targeting because they are targeting the whole market. They have come to the table with an offer that has the broadest market appeal that most people will be interested in buying. Now, that's not going to be for every brand, obviously, but for some brands out there, those especially that we know that are out there that are massive, I'm talking the likes of Apple or Colgate or a Mars bar, they could target anybody, yeah? Practically anybody, should I say. Now, I've got this hunch that that's not going to work for every brand. It couldn't, obviously. I think you'd get that point. But if it was going to work, it really does depend on the type of offer that you have, the type of need that you have, and the available market that you have that would need that offering. I think it also depends on the current market share that you have and the amount of awareness that you have in your market. So if you are a big national brand, let's say, I think if you switch to a mass marketing approach, you're going to have a much better opportunity of that succeeding as a strategy. If you're a smaller business, it's probably not going to do you worthwhile. It would be better to have a target market so you can start building a customer base based on knowing who your target is first, who you're going to target, so it limits the amount of focus that you need to have to one kind of buyer, let's say, a certain buying situation maybe, rather than a specific persona necessarily. But that might make your efforts much more tailored. So based on the amount of availability that you have in terms of effort, time, resources, money, all those things. So that is strategy. Part of it is segmentation, part of it is targeting, and then positioning. I might talk about positioning another day, but that is how we help you as a brand strategist. We help you to grow. We look at these things. It might seem really simple because it should be. This stuff should be really simple. It's just mainly about the execution. And as a result of strategy, you go to make sure that you are winning to help your brand win. You're then looking at objectives to make sure that this strategy is measurable. And then tactics, all the different marketing and branding things that you can do to make sure that that strategy becomes a reality. So this is everything from your branding, your logos, your colors, your message, your internal team culture. Then for things like your packaging and your signage, your merchandise, all those little bits and pieces. And then your marketing. Okay, the actual product itself, can you tweak it to better fit your target? Can we look at the price? Different segments might have different price tolerances, like I mentioned before. And then we've got placement where, in terms of CEPs, maybe, where you could place your product in different situations to different markets. And then you have promotion. So this is all your advertising. This is all your content. These are all the different events and things that you can do. You could create communities to help grow your brand based on that strategy. Yeah, that's the direction you're looking for. That's what you'd call your plan. I'm not going to call it a plan because at the end of the day, the other parts at the bottom of it are the plan, the objectives and the tactics. The strategy is that hypothesis for what you believe is going to help you win. Okay, I hope that made sense. Look, if it didn't, that's okay. If it went straight over your head, that's okay. This is what I do day to day. This is how I help my clients do better branding. It's this stuff, this strategy stuff, and then the branding stuff. All right, I'm gonna go inside and sit down. Let's go. Okay, maybe I give you an example of how I have targeted in my time for my own business. G'day Frank, and it's branding services, because I've kind of ebbed and flowed in terms of how I've targeted clients in different industries, different niches, all that kind of thing. Because in terms of my service offering, it's fairly general. Branding services is broadly applicable to a lot of businesses and people alike. So I've worked with all kinds of different businesses, even personal brands. So it is fairly broadly applicable. So I don't necessarily need to target, nor would you if you do the similar things that I do. But I have done more hyper targeting and segmented my offering to a specific target. And The example is podcasting. Now, I make a lot of podcasts. I think I've made about 6 now. I'm about to go and record another episode for my Dr. Branding podcast in a sec. But for what I experienced in targeting podcasters to help them with their branding and brand their podcast was that, yes, I had a very clear message. I could create all the different touch points catered to that audience because I knew them, I understood their pain points, all those things. It's very ikigai, where it was like, I'm interested in this, I can help these people with this kind of service, and whatever's in between, that's what I'm going to do. And that was fun to do, but like I said outside, not all segments are as viable as the others. They're not all equal. Okay, you saw like a dartboard. Some have a higher value than others. Some might be harder to reach than others. Some might have a bigger pool than others. And podcasting just wasn't that for me. It wasn't viable enough to sustain my business. Whereas other industries, be it in tech or real estate, have been much more viable for me. So that's why I've moved away from that podcasting niche and been a bit more of a generalist. But that's to say that I can still target these other specific industries, be it tech, be it real estate, be it FMCG, so fast-moving consumer goods like drinks and food, and target them with category entry points and have marketing that is speaking to each of those kind of segments. Now, the last point I want to make is for creatives. Now, for creatives that can do all the things, a bit like me, but you're a bit of a unicorn. You can do design, you can do a bit of copywriting, you can do a bit of strategy, you can do photography, you can do videography, illustration. Did I say that one? I'm not too sure. But you're a bit of a jack of all trades. Instead of targeting a specific industry, you could kind of flip the script and niche down in terms of what you offer. So you could become, let's say, the expert in strategy, the expert in logo design, the expert in copywriting, and be known for that. And that might be advantageous to you even for connecting with other creatives that want to bring you on board as the expert, so that they might have their own shtick. They might be the logo designer and then they need a copywriter. And then you come in to save the day and help them out and offer a better service to their clients. And then vice versa, you could find others that are like that as well. So there's some brilliance in that idea rather than being a generalist. But that's not to say that being a generalist is bad either. I quite like that approach because I can be a lot of things to clients and I have an understanding of each of those different disciplines, I guess you could say, to be able to know my limitations and find somebody else if necessary, if it's beyond my scope of experience, let's say, and go from there. So that might be of something of interest to you if you do what it is you do. Do what it is you do. Do what it is I do. Whatever. All right, I'm going to put my mic down here. Hopefully you can still hear me because I need to get my kit on for the Dr. Branding podcast. Up to episode 35 already for this show. And I got this question this week from a guy, and he asked, is there such a thing as too many brand colors? The answer is yes, there is. So if you haven't subscribed already, you can find that on Spotify. You can find it on Apple Podcasts. You can find it on Substack if you go to g'dayfrank.com/candy. But you'll also see it here on YouTube. I've been uploading these episodes sequentially, periodically, whatever the word is. But I've got a bit of backlog because I started uploading on YouTube a lot later than the podcast has been. So there's only a few episodes up there on my YouTube in between these vlogs. So that's what I've got going on later today, and then some more client work. But I want to give a little update, a cute little update. I became an uncle over the weekend for the first time. Looking forward to seeing them. Congratulations to my sister and her partner. Well done if you are watching. Okay, I need to go and record this episode. Hope this was helpful today about targeting. Keep it simple to do better branding. If you did like it, give it a like. If you haven't already, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. See ya.
J like the letter, I'm making several waves. I know the mission is same. I made a splash, now all of my passes last like running a race where you sing.